Hello Year 11! Recently we've been focusing on your question 5 on the Germany paper. So you've been looking at the knowledge that you could have included on your original answer and having another go at that. And then in your last lesson you had a look at revising some of the reasons why Hitler came to power and having a go at making a judgment on which factor you think was most important. Now that was really important, and if you haven't done that work from last lesson, you might like to go back and at least look at some of the resources to help you with your work today. So today we are going to bring all of that together and we're going to have a go at a new attempt at the same question type but with a different content focus. So first of all, I would like you to start by listing all of the reasons why Hitler came to power. And if you'd like to challenge yourself, you could perhaps remind yourself of which factor you decided last time was the most influential. So pause here, complete that, and then come back. Okay, so the question that we are going to have a look at today is this one here. So it looks exactly the same. It's still a 16-mark question, you still get 3 marks for SPAG, but this time you have the interpretation, which is that the Great Depression turned Hitler from an unimportant political figure into the master of the country. And this comes from Eric Hobsbawm, who is a historian writing in his academic book, The Age of Extremes, which was published in 1994. He's a long-standing member of the Communist Party, and he left Germany as a child in 1933. Now, I would like to remind you, please, of some of the common mistakes that happened last time when you did your mocks. Some of you will have rectified these mistakes in your reattempt at the previous question, but I'd just like to remind you so that you can try and avoid them today. So, your previous mistake was only talking about the Treaty of Versailles. In this one, you need to make sure you're not only talking about the Great Depression. You need to make sure that you're giving a balanced argument, so figure out what the what the argument is here, what the debate is. You need to make sure that you are reading the question very carefully, so we're going to go through that in a moment. You need to make sure that you are giving detail in your answers and lots of specific knowledge. You've got 4 marks available for specific knowledge. And you need to make sure that you are using that opportunity for spelling and grammar marks there as well. So let's have a look at this question. It asks you, to what extent do you agree with this interpretation? So when it says to what extent, a reminder that it is asking you here for a judgment. So that could be I wholly agree, I partly agree or partly disagree, that language of somewhat, you disagree, to some extent. All those kinds of judgment words, okay? It says in your answer you should refer to how and why interpretations of this issue differ. So if we are looking at how and why interpretations of this issue differ, you should be thinking about what that historian thinks and why. So what factors are making that historian come to their opinion, but also you need to acknowledge that there is a wider historical debate. And again, this can be done really simply by saying it is important to remember that not all historians agree on this issue. And that they may have different perspectives. Okay, so just by acknowledging that historical debate, you are going to kick yourself into those AO4 marks. So a reminder that here we need a balanced judgment. We need to give detailed knowledge on both sides. We need to give clear links to the question. We need to give evaluations of interpretations. So think about how much you agree with that historian. So is what they're saying, is there any reason to disagree with them? Perhaps how strong or weak is their argument? Okay. And then you need to come to your overall judgment, which says how far you agree. So let's have a look then at this interpretation. It says, the Great Depression turned Hitler from an unimportant political figure to the master of the country. So this here is talking about, so this basically is saying the Great Depression was the main reason why Hitler became Chancellor. Main reason Hitler became Chancellor. So if we're giving a balanced argument, our other side of the argument, so this is our for argument, our against argument is going to be stating that other factors were responsible. So your work from last lesson is vitally important here because you looked at all the other factors. You've got things like propaganda, you've got the strength of the Nazi Party changing, you've got things like the Munich Putsch, which was really important, plus any others that you can think of, or any others that you looked at. You've already got your decision of whether or not you agree with this interpretation because you made that decision last lesson. So that's thinking about what he's saying. We now need to think about why he's saying it. So Eric Hobsbawm is a historian. He's writing in an academic book called The Age of Extremes, and that's published in 1994. He is a communist, so that's going to be important, and he was in Germany as a child in 1933. So that is, importantly, let's focus on the date first of all. So 1933 is when Hitler came to power, or when he became Chancellor. We need to understand that Hobsbawm would have been influenced by witnessing the changes that took place. He might not have been in Germany at the time, but he certainly would have understood what was happening. We also need to pay attention to the fact that he is a communist. So the fact that he's a communist may mean that he is more likely, so let's add fact that he is a communist means that he's more likely to focus on economic issues. So other things like propaganda, like the Munich Putsch, these are social issues, and therefore a social historian might talk about them, but an economic historian or a historian with a communist background is more likely to focus on economic factors. We've also got the idea here that his book is an academic book. So this is for, we need to think about the audience. So this is an academic audience. So it might influence the kinds of things he's saying. However, I think this is the thing that you're going to focus on the least. When we're talking about how and why this historian has this opinion, the fact that he's writing in 1933 and the fact that he is a communist are the things that you should focus on in your answer. So, what you are going to do now is, in your team's assignment, you are going to have another go at writing this question. It will be marked the same as last time, and you will get some feedback on it, and hopefully you will have made some progress on the kinds of things that you are writing. So if you have any questions, get in touch. If you need any help, let me know, and good luck.